Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. So, to continue on in my Celebration of Red series, I am using the same colors I was using in my last video. I've got another 12 by 12 inch gallery wrapped canvas, and I am just layering my cup here. I'm going to do a ring pour. So I started with the black, then the red, then copper. Next up, we've got quinacridone violet. Then quinacridone red. And then quinacridone magenta. A little more black and red to top it off. And as you can see on the canvas there, I had a few drips. It's fine, don't worry about it. Just rub it into the canvas so that there's not like little blobs of paint on there. And that way the paint will just flow right over it, no big deal. All right, here we go. So I'm jiggling my hand back and forth just a little bit. This creates some of those fingerlings, people call them, in the paint. And as you can see, the front part kind of closest to us isn't really getting a lot of lines. It's getting a lot of solid color. You can see that red, then the violet, then the black. All you got to do there is, like I just did, is just move your hand a little bit, change the direction, and then the lines will start going in different directions. So I do that quite often while I'm doing my jiggle pour like this. Is I'll sort of just change the direction of where my hand is, so that way the lines get everywhere across the whole circle rather than just half of it. Or you can do half of it if you like that look. Totally up to you. Take your time with this part, guys. You can certainly pour it out really, really fast and do a straight pour, but it's so much, you get such crisper lines if you're trying to do a ring pour or things like that. You get a lot more control if you go a lot slower like this. Now, in the end here, I quite often will always do, lots of jiggles and wiggles in there and just get some good, interesting lines for the middle. So do keep an eye on that when you get to this part. And if you want to avoid any drips, just stick your finger under there and catch it. Pop some of those air bubbles. Now here I've just taken some of that cadmium red that I had left over, made it just a tiny bit thinner, just a drop or two of water I mixed in, and then I've put this around just to help all of the paint flow across that dry canvas. Plus, I don't want to lose all of that beautiful color puddle in the middle, so by putting some of that paint around, it allows me to tilt a lot more of that red off versus the actual composition. Now, the biggest thing I can tell you when you're doing a ring pour, if you want to keep your lines and you want to keep your rings, slow, 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 slower. So as you can see here, I'm just going from corner to corner in a circular motion, really, really slow. Once I've kind of gotten it a little closer to the corners, now I'm going to start going over the corner here, as you can see. And just as soon as it gets to the corner, I tilt it back up and push that paint back to the middle. Now we're going to the other corner and back into the middle. Take your time. Next corner. Especially when your paint's as thin as mine is for this one. Take your time. That paint moves fast. But every single corner, bring it back into the middle. That's how you keep that design really nice and keep those lines crisp in the center, is by every time that you do a movement over the corner like that, is you bring it back and you center it. It also helps too with the distribution of the weight of the paint so that you don't have areas on your canvas afterwards that have more, like, thicker layers of paint on it. That can be one of the culprits behind crazing and cracking, is because there's a lot more layers of paint in one area. So the top will dry fast, but underneath isn't drying as quickly. The air's not getting to it as much because there's more layers of paint, and that will cause it to crack and craze. And yeah, that's kind of just a way you can avoid it. You can do that with Dutch pours too. I've talked about that before, about just, checking out your puddles and blowing over them just to make sure you don't have any, big thick puddles left. So here you can see I'm just fixing up my corners and edges, just taking some of the paint from the drips below that matches the areas, touching my finger onto it, just making sure none of the white canvas is showing through. As always, do not forget to scrape your drips. The drips can pull the composition and pull some of the paint off the canvas. Especially the thicker your paint is, the more important it is to do this. Do this a few times, not just once. I will do it about every 5 minutes for probably 2 or 3 times at least, until I can see that I'm not getting any more drips. And then you should be good. And as always, 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 make sure that your canvas is level. Now here it is, just a few days later, so it is dry to the touch, but it is still curing. So it'll be a few more weeks yet till it's done. I am just loving how this turned out. It almost looks like the inside of a rose opening up. And my lines stayed really nice and crisp. I'm loving the copper inside those lines too. When that gets a coat of resin on top of it, oh, the copper is just going to shine through. I can't wait. Oh, I love it, guys. It turned out so good. As always, guys, I'm always fighting that YouTube algorithm, so the best thing you can do to support me, make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, share. It all helps, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Take care.